Welcome to Lesson 3.6, Transportation Safety. Transporting a client creates responsibilities beyond simply driving from one location to another. Care. Partners must consider the client's mobility, supervision needs, vehicle safety, seatbelt use, transfers, weather, traffic, emergencies, and the client's approved service plan. Our responsibility begins before the client enters the vehicle and continues until the client has safely reached their approved destination. Never assume that you may transport a client simply because they ask. Transportation should be an approved service, and the care partner providing it must meet agency requirements. Know where you are authorized to take the client and what transportation assistance they require. Personal errands or unapproved trips should not be added simply because the client requests them. When uncertain, contact your supervisor before transporting the client. Care partners authorized to transport clients must maintain all required driving qualifications. If your driver's license becomes suspended, restricted, or expired, or if another issue affects your ability to legally or safely transport clients, notify the agency immediately. Never transport a client when you are not legally or agency authorized to drive. The vehicle used for client transportation must be safe. Before transportation, pay attention to obvious safety concerns. A damaged tire, malfunctioning seatbelt, warning light, broken mirror, or other significant issue should not simply be ignored. Follow agency procedures for vehicle inspection and reporting safety concerns. The passenger area should be clean and free from unnecessary hazards. Loose objects can move during sudden stops. Clutter may interfere with entering or exiting the vehicle. The client should have a clear and safe space to sit. A professional transportation environment also reflects the standards of Agnes and Sandy's caring hands. Planning can prevent unnecessary risks. Know where you are going before leaving. Allow sufficient travel time so you do not feel pressured to speed or rush the client. Consider weather and traffic conditions when appropriate. Make sure required mobility equipment and necessary client items are available before leaving. Entering and exiting a vehicle can create a significant fall risk. Park in an area that provides enough space for the client to safely approach and enter. Watch for curbs, uneven pavement, traffic, puddles, and other hazards. Follow the client's care plan regarding transfers and mobility assistance. Never pull the client into the vehicle by their arms. Before allowing the client to exit, look around. Is there moving traffic? Is the ground uneven? Is there ice, water, a large curb, or another obstacle? Have the client's walker or other approved mobility equipment ready when appropriate. The goal is to make the transition from the vehicle to the destination as safe as possible. Seat belts are an essential transportation safety measure. Before moving the vehicle, make sure the client is safely positioned and appropriately restrained as required. The driver should also be properly restrained. Never begin driving while the client is still adjusting themselves, entering the vehicle, or attempting to fasten their restraint. There may be situations when transportation cannot safely proceed. If the client cannot be positioned safely, required equipment is missing, or the vehicle has a significant safety problem, stop. Do not improvise simply because the client has an appointment. Contact your supervisor and follow agency procedures. Walkers, canes, wheelchairs, and other equipment must be stored safely during transportation. Equipment should not be placed where it can interfere with driving controls, block exits, or strike the client during sudden braking. Follow agency procedures and manufacturer instructions regarding mobility equipment. Transporting a client while they remain seated in a wheelchair requires specialized equipment and securement. A standard wheelchair should never simply be placed inside a vehicle with the client sitting in it unless the vehicle and wheelchair transportation system are designed and approved for that purpose. Only care partners who are trained and authorized should perform specialized wheelchair transportation. When transporting a client, drive defensively. Avoid unnecessary sudden acceleration, hard braking, and aggressive turns. Some clients may have limited balance, pain, fragile bones, or medical conditions that make abrupt vehicle movement especially uncomfortable or unsafe. Drive smoothly and obey all traffic laws. Distracted driving puts everyone at risk. Do not text, complete documentation, or perform other distracting tasks while driving. If something requires your attention, find a safe place to stop before addressing it. Client transportation is not the time to multitask. Navigation should be prepared before the vehicle begins moving. Enter the destination and make necessary adjustments while parked. If the route needs to be changed and you cannot do so safely without handling the device, pull over somewhere safe. Never allow navigation to become a driving distraction. A care partner must be physically and mentally capable of safely operating the vehicle. Never transport a client while impaired by alcohol, drugs, an impairing substance, extreme fatigue, or any condition that makes driving unsafe. If a medication or illness affects your ability to safely drive, notify your supervisor. Client safety comes before completing the trip. Weather can quickly change transportation conditions. Slow down and increase caution when conditions require it. Never drive through flooded roadways or knowingly enter an unsafe situation simply to remain on schedule. If conditions make transportation unsafe, contact your supervisor and follow agency procedures. Where you park affects client safety. Whenever possible, choose a location that minimizes unnecessary walking and provides enough room for safe entry and exit. Pay attention to curbs, traffic, lighting, uneven pavement, and weather conditions. Never sacrifice safety simply to find the closest available space. Transportation does not suspend the client's supervision requirements. If the care plan requires continuous supervision, that requirement continues in the community. Never leave a client requiring supervision alone in the vehicle while you run inside somewhere. Never leave them unattended at a restaurant, store, appointment, or other public location. Follow the care plan throughout the entire outing. Vehicle temperatures can become dangerous. Older adults and individuals with certain health conditions may be particularly vulnerable to extreme temperatures. Never leave a client requiring supervision alone inside a parked vehicle. Plan transportation so the client remains appropriately supervised and protected from environmental conditions. Transportation may be confusing for a client living with dementia. They may forget where they are going or become anxious in an unfamiliar environment. Explain the trip simply and provide reassurance. Pay particular attention during vehicle entry and exit. Once the client leaves the vehicle, maintain the supervision required by the care plan. If a client becomes extremely upset, confused, or disruptive while you are driving, your first responsibility is still operating the vehicle safely. Do not turn around repeatedly, physically intervene, or engage in an argument while the vehicle is moving. When necessary, pull over in a safe location before addressing the situation. Follow agency procedures if additional assistance is needed. A client should not be physically forced into a vehicle simply because transportation was scheduled. Ask why the client does not want to go. They may be frightened, confused, sick, uncomfortable, or simply exercising their right to refuse. Follow the care plan and agency procedures regarding refusals, including appropriate notification and documentation. Client transportation must remain professional. Do not stop to complete your own errands. Do not pick up your children, friends, family members, or other unauthorized passengers. Do not use the client's scheduled transportation time for personal business. Follow the approved assignment and agency policy. If you are involved in a motor vehicle accident while transporting a client, remain as calm as possible. Stop in accordance with applicable safety and legal requirements. Check the client and yourself for injuries. Contact emergency services when needed. Notify the agency promptly and follow transportation incident procedures. Complete all required documentation accurately. Vehicle breakdowns can also create safety concerns. Move to a safe location when possible without creating additional risk. Maintain supervision of the client. Contact appropriate roadside or emergency assistance and notify the agency according to policy. Do not abandon the client to seek help. If a client experiences a medical emergency while you are driving, do not attempt to provide care while simultaneously operating the vehicle. Get the vehicle safely stopped as soon as reasonably possible. Assess the situation and activate emergency medical services when indicated. Follow your CPR, first aid, and agency emergency training. Notify the appropriate agency personnel as soon as possible. Transportation documentation should accurately reflect the services provided. Follow agency requirements for transportation logs, mileage, departure, and return times, destinations, and other required information. Document significant incidents or client refusals according to agency procedures. Never falsify transportation records or mileage. Transportation concerns should be reported promptly. This includes vehicle problems, changes in the client's ability to enter or exit the vehicle, accidents, significant near misses, missing equipment, or changes affecting your eligibility to drive. Reporting concerns allows the agency to address risks before someone is injured. Transportation safety requires professional judgment at all times. Never transport clients without proper authorization. Never drive distracted or impaired. Never ignore required restraints or significant vehicle problems. Never leave a client unattended when supervision is required. And never hide an accident, incident, or safety concern. The correct answer is C. Trying to physically manage the client while continuing to drive could cause a serious collision. Stay as calm as possible and safely pull over. Once the vehicle is stopped, address the client's immediate safety, provide reassurance, and follow the care plan and agency procedures. The appointment schedule is never more important than immediate safety. Remember the word drive. Make sure the driver and vehicle are ready. Restrain occupants appropriately. Inspect the environment before entry and exit. Operate the vehicle safely. And respond to and report emergencies and incidents according to agency procedures. Let's review. Only appropriately authorized care partners should transport clients when transportation is included in the approved services. Vehicle condition, client needs, equipment, restraints, destination, and other safety factors should be considered before leaving. A client requiring supervision should not be left unattended in a vehicle. If a client becomes significantly distressed while you are driving, safely stop the vehicle before attempting to manage the situation. And transportation accidents must be handled according to emergency, legal, reporting, and documentation requirements. You have completed Lesson 3.6, Transportation Safety. Remember that your responsibility for the client does not stop when you leave their home. Prepare the vehicle and trip. Follow the care plan, assist the client safely into and out of the vehicle, maintain required supervision, drive defensively, and respond appropriately to emergencies. Transportation is a professional caregiving responsibility and should always be performed with safety, dignity, and good judgment. You have now completed Section 3, Caregiving Skills. See you in the next section.